Check, check, check. Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Trevor, and this is what's going on in the life of you. Hello, and welcome. We are here at the LOU, and we are here to interview different people just like me and you. They're going through life. We'll talk about faith, family, friends, the lack of any of those, and all the stories that make us who we are. Thanks for joining. Hey guys, thank you guys for joining. Welcome to the LOU. I have an awesome guest, one of my best friends for forever. Brian, how long have we known each other?
Forever, you just said it.
Forever, that's right. But Brian Haddox, so he is a great friend of mine. We've worked together prior to today. We don't work with each other now, but in our past, we worked together for many years, and we went through some trials, man. We went through some tough stuff, and going through war together. Okay, first of all, I want to say I'm not a veteran. I respect all veterans, and I thank you guys. And I wouldn't say I was in that aspect and be lying about it. So I'm not a veteran, so I shouldn't have said war maybe. But we've been through some really tough trials against some really tough situations, and we had to walk through those things together. So walking through those things together really got us to have a bond that is as close, if not closer, than some brothers that I know for sure. So it's Brian Haddox. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about life. One of the conversations we were just having, Brian's actually going to start out the conversation, and we're going to go with what Brian was just talking to me about, because it was pre the start, and I was like, man, hold that conversation, and we'll talk about it as we start the podcast.
Yeah. So, which part do you want to touch on?
Whichever, man, just hit it.
Well, what I want to know, different point of views of people, is podcast. Are you a person that you like just listen to one single person, or do you like a group of people?
Yeah. So when I'm listening to a podcast, I like listening to one person if they're giving a lesson on something, right? If it's a group discussion, man, that's awesome, because you get to hear everyone's opinion, and you get to see different, because we all come from a different place. Every one of us has a different background, different upbringing, all of those things. So when you go back and you look at that picture, wow, I'm getting so much information right now, because this person grew up like this. This person so it creates this absolute, it's like a spring of knowledge, because you're getting it from all these different angles. So the group is awesome too. I do love interviews. Whenever I like the person, I'm like, I want to know more about that person. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is a broad view, and I get that. But I think when we started the conversation, it was kind of like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do for your podcast? Which one do you like more to do, or whatever? And I think it'd be cool to have them all, obviously. Besides myself, I don't like doing that kind of thing. Just zeroing in all the focus on me. It's just not my thing. So that's not something that I love. But if God, it leads me to do that, I'll definitely do it. If there's a certain lesson and certain teaching and stuff that I've walked through, maybe a trial, and I was able to overcome it with the grace of God and by his guidance, I'll definitely teach on that. You know what I mean? Right now, my biggest thing is interviewing so I can find out that perspective from that person, and we can really focus on that. Because sometimes, for instance, we surround ourselves with a bunch of guys in here. How many people are going to be talking? Usually just one at a time, yeah. Right? Then you get that one guy won't shut his mouth, and you're like, man, I have 5 things to say. I forgot the first 2 because this dude won't shut up. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep rolling. So I think there's some pros and cons in there, but I know some listeners right now are probably thinking, man, I know a guy just like that. I know a woman just like that. They just don't shut up. I can't even get my thoughts right.
I was thinking the same.
So you get it. You understand that. So that's where my differences come in. But right now, yeah, definitely interviewing and just talking about life. Because, man, I see life in a new way every day, it seems like. And one of my new revelations and things is that we're all different. We've all had those different upbringings and all that stuff, which it's not new, because as you know, when we work together, we got to see that every day, right? Me and Brian, we got to work for a residential facility here in Missouri, and it was an awesome opportunity. There were some things there that, man, like any business, like any company, there's some things that are wrong and they need to be fixed. That's everywhere. So it's not a soapbox that we're going to get on or anything like that, but I will talk about some stories. And this residential facility, man, it was crazy. It's a whole new life. I actually worked for a prison in Oklahoma before I moved to Missouri. And when I was in there, I got some inmates and I would talk to them. And I would talk to them about life and how'd you get here? And I've just been a product of the system. And I'm like, how are you a product of the system? I mean, you go to school, you live your life, from my sheltered life. I'm not saying there was some trauma there, but it was sheltered compared to a lot. And they would tell me I've just been in the system my whole life. So I would dive in and they said, well, I was in a residential. I'm like, what's that? I've been in and out of foster care. I'm like you had different parents and stuff. And they're like, well, kinda. And they tried to explain it to me. And I thought I knew a little bit about it. Well, I had a buddy up here in Missouri that worked for this company, this residential facility. And he said, man, you'd be great at this job. And I was like, I'm good. I've heard stories about you getting knocked out. Like, why would I want to do that? Right. And so that's how that went. And then I got to a place where I was like, man, I do need more money. I need a more solid job. I was working construction, didn't have a whole bunch of time. You know what I mean? Those 40 hours in the wintertime kind of went downhill, and so you see some of those things happen in life. And so it was kind of a low part where I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make a change. So I thought about that and I was like, man, maybe I'll just put in my app. And I put it in. I ended up going there. And as I went there, I went in for this interview. It was this panel interview, man, make you nervous. There's like 5-6 people trying to interview you. Me and Brian actually been on the opposite side of that, where we went and interviewed a bunch of people. We had some fun with that, because we remembered those things. But as I interviewed, I dropped a name. I dropped the name of a guy that I knew, that told me about the place. And they said, oh, they went to their phones, started talking to that guy, and he gave me the thumbs up. They hired me on the spot. Wasn't an interview after that at all. You know what I mean? So that's the residential facility that I got to be a part of. And then here comes Brian. And Brian came in. He was one of my staff, and then he worked himself up to being a supervisor as well. We were partners for a long time, and we went through a lot of battles. So in a residential facilities, for you guys who don't know what this is different kids from the ages of sometimes 5, but mainly it was 6 to 18. Sometimes it was to 21. Yes, there was some exceptions, but roughly it was about 6 to 18 years old. And there was these kids from all, male and female, from all different situations, circumstances, upbringings, trauma, being spoiled too much, all the way to being locked in a basement and being fed nothing but the wood and stuff off the door hinges and stuff. It's just crazy stories. But the trauma that took place there in their lives caused us to have to deal with it. The collateral damage of all of this upbringing and this trauma we had to deal with on the daily. So that's what I'm talking about when I say me and Brian worked together in a residential facility, and we went through some trials, because these kids, some of them got rough.
Will test you.
They will, man, for sure. And from it, man, I'll be honest, Brian, one of the biggest things I got from it is patience. Same. So talk through that a little bit about some of those things that you got from working there, because we all gained so much from the different times in our life, but this specific time working at this wonderful residential facility, what'd you learn?
I would say lots of things. One, it humbled me as a person for sure. I did learn patience. One thing I still struggle with though is I cannot stand waiting on someone.
Really?
Oh yeah, it drives me bonkers.
Man, I'm surprised that working there didn't help you with that.
No,
that's a constant.
Like, come on, it's mainly more of like meeting someone.
Yeah,
you're like, all right, hey, because obviously, I like to buy and sell things a lot.
Yeah, and
it's like, all right, where's this person at? Or like you're trying to get info, like, hey, let me come look at this. You're waiting for them to respond, stuff like that. But anyways, back to the residential side of it. It's just. So how I got started on there, I'll give a little bit of story of that, and I'll get back to your question there, is my wife actually got down there first.
Yeah.
And then she kept talking about it, and I was actually running a farm for a guy, and she just kept talking about it. And I was like, I don't know if you should stay there. And this is like, we just got together.
Yeah.
I think she worked down there for maybe 3 months before I started down there.
Yeah.
Like, we just got together. And I'm like, oh. So, I had that, I want to protect you, that macho-ness. Like, you ain't going to do that on your own.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what got me involved. And like, let me go see what it's about.
Yeah.
And
it's a whole new world.
I went down there. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, the stuff that they were telling you. And it's like,
yeah, because we don't know that goes on in our backyard.
No.
You know what I mean? The trauma that they come from, but also the facilities that they have to go to. And having a bunch of people who have their own trauma, for real, have their own trauma in their own lives, have to deal with a bunch of other people who have a bunch of trauma that are all from different, and then all put in the same place.
The same area.
Like, here you go, live in this house together. And listen to these parents who aren't parents, aren't allowed to act like parents, but then, they have to tell you what to do and be your authority. And it's a system, right? Because we have to have those places. I mean, hands down, I'm not downing those facilities in that way. We have to have them, because if not, then everybody needs to be foster parents, right? Because then we would have a place for these kids to go. So going into that, we faced some trials. We went through some heavy things. We've been hit quite a few times, kicked, hit, jumped, all those things, and we had to protect ourselves by just basically give them big hugs. You know what I mean? And that's what we had to do. But we got to change lives, right? Not only our lives were changed, but we got to change lives, man. And that's such a big deal. So now, going from there, we just dropped a big F word, right? Fostering. And so let's talk about that walk, because audience doesn't know this, but let's go through your foster children and then what that led to today. So go ahead.
So we were at the residential still. My wife actually left, and she went on to another career path. And I was still down there. And I think that missing link with being around kids, I think that was always with my wife. And she's kind of like, man, because when you are down there and you're having good days, it's like, man, this is everything.
Oh, man.
Like you're changing stuff.
Changing lives, too. Yeah.
It's just, you make that bond with them because you can put in some hours at that place. It's like home.
Yeah.
And you make that bond. You just have those good days. And my wife was gone from that. Yeah. And it's like that missing piece for her, which we're in the process of working on having our own kids. Obviously, that's not in our cause right now.
Yeah.
And we've learned that, and we're going to keep moving forward because we know it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's good.
God, it's his timing.
Amen.
What it falls to.
Amen.
But fostering, she just kept talking about it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to bring this home.
Yeah.
I like leaving it there.
Yeah, leaving it at work.
Even though, I was the supervisor down there, so it still came home with me. But it was over text message and phone calls. You know? So you had a little bit of a break. But she kept bringing that up, and I was like, nah, I don't think I want to do that. And then one day I just gave in. Yeah. And I was like, you know what?
Okay.
Let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So we literally just jumped into it because there's some things that, like right now, I keep talking about a podcast and starting a YouTube channel. I just keep talking about it. And it's one of those things you just got to jump in and do it. And that's how we did with fostering. And we've had 4 so far that have been with us and then went back. And then we had 3 that we recently adopted. Which, you got to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
Like this guy, I'm telling you, he's been through the ringer with me. Just every step through life there is,
and that's something, man. We all need friends like that, Brian.
We do.
This world, this life is a scary place to travel through alone. I'm glad that we both share that we have a faith that is stronger than anything, because God comes first, 100%. And then we need those people. Jesus walked this earth. He didn't just walk it alone. He had his disciples. He had his people. So it's good to have your people. So I agree, man. It's been an awesome walk. But continue.
And then one thing I would add too is working down at residential. You kind of hear the things of like their parents or the people caring for them, and it's like, why are they doing that to these kids?
Yeah.
You know? And then having that in your home, you're like, I get their side now.
There's a whole nother coin,
yeah,
side of the coin.
I understand why it's like this, you know?
Yeah.
And it's something that you have to experience to truly understand.
Yeah.
Because you deal with so much. You deal with the children themselves, which again, this is your choice. You know, it's something we want to do and we'll continue to do it. But you have the kids, then you have whatever family they have involved, and then you have your work life. It's like, you know, hey, I have to take off because I got to go pick this kid up. They're having this issue, or we got to make this doctor's appointment because they went and done a visit, and now if they were exposed or anything, we got to figure that out, you know. And it's a battle.
Man, the logistics of that, it just, I mean, me knowing a little bit about these things because I worked for this company and all this stuff for a long time, you get the ins and outs, but then when you step into foster care, you know what I mean? Because I know about foster care, but I haven't walked it. So you telling those points really opens those things up because you're parenting kids who already have parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when their parents make a move or whatever, you have to stop, drop, and roll, man. Go do whatever it is that you got to do. And sometimes, man, it's at the drop of a hat, something happens. Yeah. So it's crazy. You're at work, but it's almost like, man, you're a horrible employee because you have all of these problems and I don't know how to dance around it. By the grace of God, though, you have a company that you work for that honors you, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's such a big deal.
It's where I work at now. I mean, it's like any job, like you said before, you know, there's things you like, there's things you don't like.
Yeah.
There's things that could be different, you know,
right.
But yeah, it's a good place. I like where I'm at, you know.
That's good.
But with fostering, with our 4 that we had that went back, also comes a lot of heartache.
Oh,
and it will tear you apart because just like being that great circle, how you bonded with them.
Yeah.
Well, these are in your home.
Yeah.
And you're with them every step of the way. Those late nights when they can't sleep.
Yeah.
When they're sick.
Yeah.
When they just want to be with you. You know, you're feeding them, clothing them, and we lost our youngest 2. They went back, and then we had our 2 that we adopted now came in. So that transition wasn't too rough. And from the start, we kind of knew that the 2 that we had wasn't going to be with us forever because getting them back with the family was what they was wanting to do.
That was the goal, yeah.
Yeah, and foster care, that's what we're all on board with. But if that opportunity opens up like it has with these 3, then obviously we're going to take advantage of it and say, hey, this is their home forever. And I think with losing those 2, it wasn't as bad because our other 2 come in. Those 2 transitioned out literally the same day.
Wow.
And then for Leighton, our youngest one, we had this other boy. His name is Miles. Now, his family that adopted him changed his name to that. And that one kind of got to me because he was just, I mean, you've seen him a couple times, you know, he was just his own little world.
Yeah.
Like no one mattered. And when we first got him, the screams that this child would let out. It was so unreal. It's like, why? It's 2:00 in the morning. I just want to sleep.
Why is this happening?
What's going on?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, without my wife, I would be nowhere with these kids like I am now.
Yeah.
Because the late nights and the middle of the nights, like I am so blessed to have her because she was just there for all of it. She was get up and she'd handle it. She'd be like, no, just relax, just lay down.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's a blessing.
And it is. Yeah. And I should do more for her, like send her on a special trip, but it's like, no, you can't. You belong to us. We're not sending you off. But I can just go on and on about her. But she was truly amazing through every step of it. But with Miles, he moved on, and it was no transition. So it kind of hit you a little harder.
Yeah,
and it's like, this guy that like wanted nothing to do with me. Wanted nothing to do with anyone. He bonded with my wife because, you know, she was every step of the way taking care of him with every need that he had. And he got to where one day, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna go outside and feed, and he's going with me. My wife's like, You want me to come with you? It's like, no, I got the other.
Got this.
Yeah, I got the other two. I'm gonna take him too. And from that moment, it's just like that bond. Like when you break that cycle of like the unknowing, it's like everything starts to fall into place.
Man.
And then he just become glued to me after that. And that bond of my heart is like, because I always told the wife, I'm not gonna open up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to let my heart sink into these kids. I'm going to set that boundary, and it's impossible. I will tell you that right now. It is impossible to do.
Yeah.
If you truly care about it and want to do it, you're just there. You're vulnerable. No matter what child it is, you're just going to be open to them. And it's like, oh, you know? And he was my first one that I just like, we was giving them to the people, and I'm just like bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you get him and you're taking him back, but it's hard at the same time to do.
So he went back and he got adopted, which means he didn't go back to bio parents, right?
No, he didn't go. He went to, my wife will have to correct me on this, but I think it was bio dad's cousin.
Okay.
That he went to. So it was still within family.
That's good.
And that's kind of like, if we kind of see that with children and know that, it's like, all right, well, we're going to push for that too.
Yeah.
But if we see like, no one's like the three we adopted, no one at all was involved.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, they're not going to go bounce around from place to place.
Right.
These are ours.
Yeah.
You know, we'll raise them. So when he left, I don't know, it was probably 5 months afterwards, I think. Maybe not that long, maybe like 3. It wasn't too long. I can't remember for sure. But my wife got the call of the baby. She's like, hey, I think I was at work that day. And she messaged me and she's like, hey, so I just got this call. And like, this baby, you know, he was just born. There needed someone to come pick him up. And I think it was a Thursday. Because we went the next day because I was off. It was Friday night, I think, when we went to go get him. It was, I think, around Christmas time. Yeah. So we went, maybe it was Thanksgiving. I don't know. We went to her family's.
Yes.
Terrible with dates.
It was a holiday season.
Yeah. Given season, you know. Jesus was giving out babies. Like, here you go. Come get this one. So we did that. We went to go get him. And it was one of those moments, you know. I was like, I'm not holding him.
Not doing it.
I was like, you take on that baby. And they come around the corner with him in that cart, which, you know, if you have 4 of them, you know what that moment's like. And it's like,
yeah, this is real.
Like this little bitty person needs us. And we have no clue what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like nothing at all. And they're trusting in us to take this child and raise him. Yeah. And that's what we did.
Man.
And we adopted him probably about a month ago now. Yeah. And
so walk me through that, because we have parents and all that stuff. Maybe we have foster parents that'll listen. But most people, for the most part, I don't know what the statistic is, but our parents at some point. But I know that picture, right? I know the picture of going through all of that whole process. I know you have to just learn, right? Yeah. You just have to learn it, and you learn as you go. They're a day old, they're a week, month, year, all that stuff. You just walk through it. You get your first one is 16? 17?
Yeah.
Their first foster kid?
Yeah, I think she's 16.
16?
Yeah.
So you get a 16-year-old. You get a 16-year-old. At that point, was it like God's gift that you worked at that residential facility?
Yeah. I think so.
I would assume it would.
I also think, was this a test? What are you doing to me, Lord?
Yeah.
You know? But so our first one, she's 16, I believe. And she actually ended up going back to her family as well. Yeah. But adoption was in the play for her. Yeah. But what a challenging and tough road that was. But I think it also was a test to say, hey, this is what you're going to deal with. Yeah. Are you going to keep doing this? Yeah. And I think just being that great circle and that mindset of like, when you have that bond and when you earn their respect, smooth coasting.
Yeah.
It's, hey, go clean that up.
Yeah.
And it's done.
Yeah.
You know what that's like working on there.
Yeah, for sure.
And with her, it was challenging. I just can't tell you enough how challenging it was. But my wife, I'm not the best at it. I'm not the best at keeping in touch with people and keeping up with people. That's one thing I got to get better at. But my wife still, touches base with her and checks on her and stuff. And she seems to be doing good. She still has her, her hiccups and challenges. And I think it's the unknowing, like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
I had these people that were there for me and gave me advice, but when I've grown up in a system that's familiar, that becomes my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to do. I just know what I need to go back to, because this is too much for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do this, because that's what I've been taught or told my whole life. But I know if I go back to this situation, I'm going to be okay.
Wow.
I'm going to have someone there that's going to wake me up, that's going to put me to sleep, that's going to make sure I have food. And I think that's the biggest thing about residential and fostering, period, that it's a perfect idea within a broken system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
I really do.
Yeah.
And it's 16 since she was 2 years old.
That's insane. So this individual, this girl, was in foster care, or in and out of a system.
Yep.
From the age of 2.
Age of 2, she went into her first foster home, and then she was in and out of foster homes and residentials.
So when I first started, I want to go into your reversed order, but when I first started at the residential facility, and I was working there, I started to learn stories, these kids' stories, and why they were where they were. And I wanted so bad, and I wish I don't need any money from this. You know what I mean? I'm not going after that, but I wish someone would do it. Still the title, still the concept. I don't care. But to write a book by the name of From Home to Home, and truly go through their different transitions from one place to another, whatever system they were in, foster care, residential, different homes, adoptions, whatever, and truly follow them and hear their stories, because there's a great need for foster parents. There's a great need for people to step up in those avenues, but it's not an easy thing, right? Which leads me to your reverse order, right? So I'm going to go over real quick, and then you could talk through what you want to, what you feel. But I have no kids. This is your life. I have no kids. I have 12 kids. I have no kids. I have 12 kids because you go home. So it's like grandparent duty almost, right? So you go play the parent, 12 kids, 13 kids, 15 kids, sometimes more. Then you do a supervisor role, you get up to 110, 120. It just depends on where you are, because you have to react and go to every single, respond and go to every single situation. So when you're overseeing those things, you have to do that. But then you get to go home. But then you only hear about it, so you get this reverse order. And then the next thing, okay, well, now I do have a kid that is 24/7, but they're 16. They're not a day old. They're not the first couple days in a hospital with some nurse giving you the real rough kind of outline. No, it's okay. They're at your house now.
Yep.
And you go 16, right? And then fill me in on the ages after that.
16, 2, and 3, and then we kind of stick around the 3 mark for one of them, and then the ones we adopted, he just turned 2.
Yeah.
And Kylie was a little over 1, and then Layton we picked up as a newborn.
So you go 16. You drop down to toddler.
Yep.
You hang out at toddler age, and then you jump in on your last child, right? Because you're at 3 now that you have now adopted. So you do fostering and all that stuff. And then you start with 16, go down to toddler, then you get more toddlers, you adopt toddlers. Now you're down to newborn. So total complete opposite than anything else. Because first you're just like, I'm just basically babysitting, just with a way crazier thing. You know what I mean? It's a crazier story in a residential facility than it is when you're like, hey, can you watch my kids for a couple hours? So it's not necessarily babysitting on that term. But so you play that role as a parent, you jump in and you go through that whole reverse order. Wow. That's different than anybody I've ever met. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's other people that's walked that road, but wow, it just blows my mind. So talk about some of those things. What were the trials? What were the successes? What were some things that might even have helped you along the way?
So I would say the age was a little scary at first, because in your mind, when you think of a 16-year-old, you think of someone that is basically kind of transitioning into like leaving the house and kind of moving on with what they want to do, or college or something like that.
Yeah.
Not saying everyone's going to kick their kid out at that age, you know.
Yeah.
But with her, it was almost like dealing with a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and it's like, you're 16 years old.
Yeah. You should know.
How do you not know how to do this? How do you know, like, my wife, how to teach her hygiene things? And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how do you not know you need to do this? How do you not know you need to make your bed, or not throw your clean clothes into your dirty clothes basket and store those together? And it's just sweep. How do you not know how to sweep? How do you not know how to mop?
Yeah, it's that lack of knowledge that we have on the backstory, and even when we have it, it's still hard for our flesh not to just say, you should. And it's like, okay, but let's go back. Been in a foster system, been in a system, 2 years old. Yep. So it's that backstory that goes in there. But continue.
And it's that broken part I'm talking about is this child grew up in this for this long. And I'm not saying no one ever taught them, but it's almost like you've been failed your entire life.
Yeah.
And then with the age, when we step back to kids that were actually that age, it's like, wow. I mean, the 16-year-old, it kind of aggravates you, because it's like, all right, I've told you this enough and taught you this enough. You know how to do it. But when you see a child that is actually that age, you start to tell them things that you've told the 16-year-old, and it's like, wow. Like, when I explain it to you, I can see that you're kind of picking it up. But this 16-year-old is still struggling with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, so the age group, I think that was easy to deal with, because you're kind of looking at that child with having that mindset.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And then with the 16-year-old, it was rough. There was times that it was like, man, this is great. This is awesome. A big thing that my wife talked about is our ages being so close, because at the time we were in our 20s. And having a 16-year-old, it was more of like, well, let me hang out and kind of do whatever I want, like we're friends, we're buddies. And it's like, no, you're here to learn things. You're here to mature and to grow up in a good establishment, and go do great things with your life.
And you're on a fast track because you're behind.
Yeah. And it's like, she's not like that.
Yeah.
She's not ready for that. And it's so hard to deal with all the time when you also got work and you got family that you have to take care of. It just tying into other different things. I can keep going on, but I would not tell anyone not to do it, but you have to do it to understand it. Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah. And I see an advantage a little bit there, because having those older youth and seeing I don't want to say deficits, because I don't want to be politically incorrect or whatever, but to see those struggles that they're having to go through because of the lack of parenting, or the lack of whatever, the perfect situation, however you want to look at it, that will put your mind in a place that when you go to that 3-year-old, you go to that 4-year-old, you're gonna see that same thing, but understand that that's the way they should be instead of getting that infant, growing that infant to a toddler and going, I have told you this a million times. When you've had to do that with a 16, 17, 18-year-old human being, it almost sets you up for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's even benefits in there, because I'm thinking of at the opposite place where I look at sometimes I look at my kids and I'm like, man, I know personally I've taught you this 502 times. You know, how is that possible? So to condition that and give you that patience, because like that residential facility, working there, I learned where the deficits were. I learned the struggles. I learned what trauma will do. And it helped me be patient. People walk around me, you are the most patient person. I'm like, I'm not always. I know you say that. I actually know me, so I'm not going to lie to you and say that I am. But I understand how that could be my affect. That's what shows, right? Because if we're all honest about those things, we all put on a show for everyone. Like no one knows our absolute true self, right? Yeah. So there is some things where that I would argue with it, but in all reality, people look at me that they will, if they're around me in chaos, man, you're the most calm person ever. You know what I mean? But it's because of our history and what we've done. Yeah. I mean, it goes back to a situation where it was the craziest thing, Brian. And I've told you about it. I haven't told the audience, obviously, but we'll get into it. So I pull up to the church, and as I'm pulling in, the windows are down and everything's fine. And I hear, I got effing shot. I'm shot. And I'm like, well, someone's yelling, and I look over, and there's a guy sitting down on the street, real close to the church. So I was like, okay, I'll go over. I walk over there. I see blood and stuff. I yelled to my wife, who's in the truck, and I said, hey, my gloves are here. First aid kind of stuff. Just, I didn't have a whole kit, just had some first aid gloves or whatever. Mm-hmm. So she brought me the gloves and sees the wound. I'll put it there. The guy was shot twice. One went through his shin and the other went through his thigh. So at first we saw the shin. The shin was actually snapped in half and all that stuff. I'm just putting on gloves. I'm wrapping everything what I can, trying to keep him to get his legs, keep his legs straight and all that stuff. I'm telling people, hey, call 911, do all this, CPR, first aid. Yeah, okay. We all learned that. You know what I mean? I taught it forever. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I just knew it as a book, just because, that's what we do. We've been through so much chaos like that before that it's like, okay, get the nurse, get this person on the phone, all that stuff in our realm. But in this situation, I said, hey, call 911. That's what, and I'm telling these people are freaking out all around me. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm numb to it all, Brian. Yeah. At this point, I'm numb to it all. It's all just another day. We're just walking through it. That's nothing to brag about it. I think it just puts that in you. So I get the person calm to call 911. We finally get them on their way. And he ends up going, oh yeah, I'm shot over here too. And he was covering it with his shorts. And I said, well, let me see it. He pulls it up and there's a hole right through his thigh and blood just starts pouring out. And I was like, man, there's some bigger arteries in there. That's going to be rough. So there was a guy that showed up with a medical bag and he had a tourniquet. And I'm telling you, man, to have a tourniquet, man, learn how to use one. Because the guy showed up and he was just trying to figure out how exactly to go, and he was trying to put it over his foot and then roll it all the way up, and I was just like, we don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I took it apart, showed him, I said, turn it. And he said, it's as tight as it goes. I said, no, because if you know anything about a tourniquet, you got to tighten that thing where it's going to cause someone a lot of pain. I mean, at least it seems that way. And so we got that taken care of. The cops show up and we go through that situation. And the cops got there and I said, hey, man, this is what we got. And he's like, that's not me. I'm just here to secure the area. Wouldn't touch the dude. And I was like, wow, I learned roles. I didn't know the roles of a police officer. And also, he's like, the medics are on their way. So they show up, I tell them what's going on, and I just leave. I go deal with the trauma of the kids that heard it, watched it, and all that stuff. And walk through that. And the whole time, it's like I never skipped a beat. I never got overworked. I never started freaking out or anything. And afterwards, I'm going, there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. Like a dude got shot. He's sitting in I didn't think, hey man, that guy might come back and shoot us. Like none of that came into my mind. Yeah. There was no fear of it, nothing. I just walked through it. Mm-hmm. And I think putting in 10 plus years
Mm-hmm.
at a residential facility that has some really chaotic situations, it'll put you there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a crazy ordeal, being in that kind of mindset. So real quick, let's go back through a lot of the things you've been through and give the viewers some advice, life advice, because that's what we're here to talk about is life. We got to dive into yours, man, about your foster care, the residential, all those things, the adult decisions in your life. I want to talk about one person in your whole entire life that has either taught you the way, straightened out some paths in your life, give you a foundation that's unbreakable, any of those things that you want to talk about, that person that really set your life up in that way, you know what I mean, to make you who you are.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna throw it out there, and people's gonna be like, "Well, this might have been a setup," but
Yeah.
But Trevor is that guy.
Okay, okay. So
Trevor Holt.
Okay, so that's not that. I don't want to cut this out. I do personally because I'm not someone to take that. You can go ahead and answer that question however you want to, but that wasn't a setup.
That wasn't. Yeah.
But I really thought that I really thought it would have been someone prior to me, and something like upbringing as a child and stuff like that. So first, let's go there. Okay, first let's go there. As a child growing up, who was that person that taught you the most?
Oh gosh, it's hard for just one because like growing up, being in church and stuff, there's a lot of different men that kind of take on that role.
Yeah.
Of like, there's this kid, let's get him and kind of teach him this and different stuff. So there's not really anyone that I think would like stand out.
Okay.
As much as when I started working with you.
Yeah. And
learning things. I would also like encourage people that if you do have any, even if it's an older person, there's a guy in his 20s, take them under your wing.
Yeah.
And teach people everything they need to know.
Yeah, that's good.
Anything you notice about them, like just little things, help them out, But yeah, growing up, it's, I was in church, and as you know, in church, it's a family type setting.
Yeah,
and it's like,
for sure.
It doesn't matter if this is your first day or your last day. We're your people, and we're going to teach you things.
Yeah.
And then, I was just young, kind of did my own thing, met my wife now, and I think she has like impacted me a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. She has really matured me a lot.
Mm.
And I honestly don't think I would be this far in life without her.
Yeah.
Because I honestly think I would take a different route, and there's just not enough I can talk about or say about her.
Yeah. So what wisdom would you give out of what you just said? What wisdom would you give to an audience member out there that is in those shoes? They're unmarried. They're not there yet. You know what I mean? And they're kind of at that place of going, man, like you said, I could have took a different road, easily. Where do you go from there? If you don't know where you're going, you don't know who to marry, you don't know if that's what you want to do, what wisdom would you share with them?
Well, I think the only thing for me that I would say, and not everyone would follow it or agree with it, but is first of all, I'd open that Bible.
Yeah.
And I'd talk with God and get to know him.
Amen.
Like, hey, this is what I want in life.
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? And I think that the church family is a big place to start.
It is. I agree.
And I think just working with you that time when we first started and kind of seeing God work through you was like, because I kind of turned away from church and kind of just, you could say, a sinner's life, however you want to use it, and I kind of quit seeking him and quit following him and quit opening my Bible, and then meeting you and kind of just seeing how you dealt with things and pour out no matter what the situation was, no matter what someone said to you. It's like, what kind of response is that, dude? You need to go knock that guy in the mouth. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You need to tell that lady she's fired. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is true patience and
Mhm.
humbleness. And that's something that I was like, I want that.
Yeah.
And I had to be careful with that. And
Mhm.
I think anyone really needs to be careful with that, because then you're taking God out of it and your flesh will take control of it.
Amen. That's
And that's
true.
one thing I still
That's a
deal
good
with
point.
today.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I got to remember, because you might start talking good on me, make my head big,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's something you have to really be careful with. But I think what touched me the most is just watching God come out of you,
Yeah.
and how you worked it, and then matured me. It just put something else inside me that it's like, man, this is what I've been missing.
Yeah. And a big thing in that, the way that I fight that battle, because if you get a compliment too much, you know that it'll start going to your head.
Yeah.
Is I know who gave me it. Who gave me the ability. You know what I mean? It doesn't come from me. It comes from his word. It comes from his truth. And living out that truth is just me showing people who Jesus is, right? As much as I possibly can. Flawed, of course, but doing my best to say, this is what God says. It's not about what I'm doing, because it's not about me. It's about him. So it's important the things that I'm doing or not doing, but it is all centered around God, and putting him first is a very big deal to me. It's something that I want to pass on to my kids, that I want them to understand wholeheartedly. And I think part of that, Brian, that really gets me thinking is, if I was a person without the hard times that I've walked through, would I be who I am today? So I talked about it on one of my buddies on Ben's Life as I Know It on his podcast.
That's a plug. You're welcome.
Yeah. So shout out Ben Howard. Life as I Know It is what it's called. But I talked to him about it, and I also talked to Juan Barraza. I'm going to shout out another podcast.
There you go. Throw another.
The Juan and Only. Shout out to both of them. They're good buddies. But I talked to him about that. I'm like, if those kids, my kids, don't go through trials, how are they going to know what life's about? And trying to do that brings up this topic. And as a parent, as a father, I think one of our biggest jobs, people are going to argue with this, but I'm okay with that. One of our biggest jobs is to allow our kids to have the safest place to fail.
Yes.
The safest place to fail. I want them to fail, Brian. I want them to fail so many times, Brian. I don't want them to be sugar-coated, candy-coated. Here you go. This is all made perfect situations so you can walk perfect, ride perfect, whatever, the throw perfect, hit perfect, whatever the thing is. I want them to dig deep, learn how to find it inside of themselves, fail 500 times, and still get up and keep going. You know what I mean? So with that, what's your take on that? And what kind of wisdom can you sprinkle on that?
So speaking of, you want them to fail, I'll touch on that a little bit. So Kylie, every man has a soft spot for a daughter.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You always have that soft spot. And I was so wrapped up into like, she's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of her. She's going to not want or need anything in this life.
Yeah.
She's going to go, Dad, he made it happen.
Yeah.
And that little bit of talk that you said about wanting to fail, my wife, some stuff falls back to her, but she deserves, I don't really want to say praise, but she has made an impact on my life like no one else, and I want that to be recognized, because, there could be someone out there that they struggle with their spouse, and it's like, man, this guy, but find that common ground. I encourage that. That's a different topic,
Oh man, it's a good one though.
It is. We need to hit it one day. But so Kylie, she's coming to me and she's like, Dad, get me dressed. Can you help me put my pants on? Can you help me figure out how to turn my socks the right way? How to put my shoes on? And I just did that.
Yeah.
I was that guy. Just did it. I'm going to do it for you.
Yep.
I'm going to wake you up and get you ready. Then I'm going to head out the door for work. You're going to be ready for mom. And one day my mom her mom hit me with, my wife hit me with, she has to learn.
Yeah.
I said, what?
What are you doing?
What? Yeah,
I'll be here for the rest of her life.
I'm here for it. She's like, but sometimes you go in early because sometimes my work schedule will change depending on how much work needs to be done.
Yeah.
And she's like, the times you're not here, I have 3 other kids to take care of.
Yeah.
Even though we had different kids at that time, but we had our 2 main 2 that we adopted. And I'm just one person.
Right.
And all my attention is on her.
Mm.
And I was like, you're wrong. You can help this little baby. You can help her. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing, where you work. They can wait. And it's like, I was at work and, your mind just sticks on things and conversations. And I just remember that with my wife. And I'm like, she's right.
Yeah.
Because if I take care of her whole life, she's never going to learn how to do anything on her own. And she's going to be 16 and not understand things.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think there's a happy median in there. And the reason I'll say that is because I want to raise my daughters. Right? Stepping on toes here. I understand you're probably going to hit me with, we agree, and I know that, but I'm just saying that we're going to step on toes probably. But I want to raise my girls to be the absolute best wives any man can have. I want to raise my son to be the absolute best husband. Mm-hmm. They have a role model right now in their home, and that's me and their mother. So my effort is to train that boy on how to treat a woman, right? I also have the alternative thought on my girls too, is I will open that door for them every time, Brian, because the man that comes along better do it. Exactly. Right? You better do it.
That's right.
And they bet, and they're going to be expecting it. And when they go to that door and they stand there, a lot of people nowadays, man, in our culture, what the heck? Open the door.
Yeah.
Why are you standing by the door? But my wife knows when she goes to the door, if she gets there first, she's going to stand to the side.
Yep.
Why? Because I'm going to open that door, and she's going to allow me and honor me in that way for me to honor her and say, hey, I'm going to get that door for you. And that's something that I want those girls to see. Mm-hmm. I want them to feel, me and my girls are alone. We're walking somewhere, walking in. I want them to stand to the side. So I train them to do that. So they know they're not supposed to just open that door. So that when that man comes along, those little tiny things, man, they're going to focus on that. They're going to go, my dad did that. My dad did that. And I know if they're trained to do that, they had a father, like I am a father of my son. They had a father that said, you open the door for a woman, and they have some groundings, a foundation that I'm willing to build on.
Yes, it's I'm like that with Kent, and I'm big on him, but sometimes with Joe, it's a little difficult with her, being only 3, but she is just so smart, and it just sometimes it's shocking of how each of them, how quick they pick up on things, and it's like, wow. What?
Yeah, they're a sponge right now.
So sometimes she's like, hey, Joe, you're not getting that door.
Yeah.
She'll be like, why, Daddy? Because I'm going to show you what a man is. And I'll tell you before that, my wife, again, back to my wife, I love her,
I know you do.
We was, it was something small. And honestly, it might have been something to eat because I don't know if anyone else struggles with this, but your wife will tell you, hey, I'm starving. Let's go eat somewhere. Mm-hmm. You pick.
Yeah.
And then you name off 3 places. No, none of those sound good. Then she'll name off a place. And it's like, why didn't we just go to there in the beginning? Like, why did I have to name off everything?
Yeah.
But she, one day we were kind of arguing back and forth and she hit me with something. And I was that's right. She goes, remember this. And I was like, here we go. Here we go. What is this now?
Yeah.
Do you want your daughter to be treated like this?
Yeah.
And it was, I can't remember what it was on. I think it was somewhere out to eat and we just kind of, you know, bicker back and forth like you do as a couple. And that, just that little bit just hit me. And it's like, you are so right.
Yeah.
And I am sorry.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. And back to like, you know, just getting doors and stuff for with Joe, that was one thing I'm like, no. Because I'm gonna show you what that, and that's where it come from, was my wife getting that door for her and stuff and her talking about it. They want to always do it. I'm just kind of remind her of like, I'm gonna be the man that I want you to have.
Yeah.
I want you to see. And you don't really think of those things until it's brought to your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And with Kent, it's the same way. You know, I shared something on Facebook and I think about it all the time and it sticks with me. And it said, I'm raising my son for your daughter to be safe around.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like, I'm raising my son so your daughter will be safe.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And that sticks with me too.
That's good. Because there's so many meanings behind that. You can dive into that and different ages and stuff like that. You got like 5-year-olds, and you go into 3rd, 4th grade, whatever, where they're just learning about different social dynamics and stuff. And you think about them and you're like, well, how's this going to work? Well, if my kid's there, my son, and a girl starts to get pushed down, she's going to be safe because he's going to respond the right way. And then you think of a 16-year-old at a party and you hear of maybe worst case scenario or bad case, pretty bad case, and a kid goes by and tries to drug a girl's drink. If my son sees it, he's going to respond the right way. If he's older and sees a man starting to beat a woman or something like that, he's going to be the right person, you know what I mean? And take care of the situation. But training them, getting them to a place where you know and trust that, man, I might be beat up right now, but I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And train them in that way. It's like, yeah, but Dad, I can't take them. It's like, it don't matter. You're going to try. Yeah. You know, if your mind tells you can't, I mean, you're going to tell it to shut up and you're going to take care of that situation. So yeah, that's there's a lot of meaning in that, and that's really good.
And with Kent too, you know, my wife, sometimes she's like, you know, like, so there's little things he'll do, but I'll hold him accountable.
Yeah.
Because one day he's going to be the man of his house.
Yeah.
And he's going to have a family.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get that phone call of, Dad, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Dad, you know, I'm going to bounce out. Yeah. I'm getting a divorce. No. So I say with him, I'm stricter on things, and I'm more of like, hey, you're going to go do this.
Yeah.
Hey, come with me.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to fix this. And getting the door is like one thing that I've really worked on him a lot. You know, there's one time that we went to a restaurant and I blame myself because my wife tells me all the time, like, you gawk at things way too much. Yeah. Like, we need to get this done. Like, what are you doing? You know? And he was just walking by and we were both staring at the same thing. It was traffic going by. They was moving some trusses. And we get to the door and I was like, what? Where is he at? And he's back here. And I was correct. I said, hey, you're going to come up here. And now because of this, after we're done here, we're going to go down the road and pick up trash.
Yeah.
You know, we're just going to do what, you know, that is like one of the best things you can do for anyone to build character, any child. And my wife was like, you got the door. It's fine. No, it's not fine.
Yeah.
Because I want him to know, hey, it's my job to take care of this.
This is a standard that I live by.
Exactly.
I'm a man and I open the door. Yeah.
And, you know, even opening doors, we get a lot of people that say, oh, that's all right. You know, I can get it. And I'm standing there. I'm like, no, he's got it.
Yeah.
He'll hold it for you. And, you know, he gets credit and they thank him and he, you know, he thinks he's like the biggest man on the planet. But
good. That's fine.
It hooks back to fostering as well. Is if you're going to take these children in, then raise these children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take care of these children.
Amen.
Teach these children how to be successful in life.
Yeah. Yeah, because they already got cards counted against them.
They do. They're already, like I said, it's a perfect system, just a broken idea.
Yeah.
And it's, if something you're passionate about and you really want to foster, then do it.
Yeah.
And the first step, I don't care what anyone says, would be opening that Bible.
Yeah.
And say, how can I raise him to be someone that stands for you?
Yes.
And someone that teaches about you.
Yeah.
And someone that protects what you've given him.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest things for me, and it's still rough. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're just kids, You get that comment sometimes too. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
He's only 5. She's only 3. I agree.
Yeah.
But one day they're only going to be 15. They're only going to be 20.
Yeah. Yeah. We are raising future adults,
mm-hmm.
right? And the bad thing is we get our mind off that and we get into the situation of saying, let kids be kids. For what and how long and what kind of system are you trying to do? Because every day I want my son, I want my daughters to advance in life in the way of learning how to be an adult, because all we're doing is raising these adults. Because Brian, I sit back and I look at myself and I'm like, man, I'm 36 years old. I remember looking at 36-year-olds and going, man, they're old. Like they are out of it. They're almost dead. You know what I mean? And I sit back and I look at myself and I'm like, man, I'm 36 years old. I feel like I'm just a little slower kid. You know what I mean? I'm a kid. I can't run as fast anymore. I can't lift as much. I can't do some of these things. But what's changed since I've been a kid? Only my mindset that God's changed. You know what I mean? So that's what I want to work on. That's what I want to dive into them, is to set standards in their life, to say, this is what we live by. This year, my family, we're going by these standards, and it's love God. And it's the Bible verse that goes with that. It's walk humbly. Bible verse that goes with that. It's speak gently. Bible verse that goes with that, and live truth. Those 4 standards I'm setting up this year in my family's life, where it's like, who are we? What do we stand for? This is what we stand for. And I'll have them repeat it, read it, and all those things so they understand it. So this is who I am. So then it stamps in their identity. This is who I am. And we find our identity, Brian, in so many things in this world. And there's so many options. You know what I mean? It's like going to a candy store, but it's, instead of candy, it's identities. I can be this, I can be that, I can be red, I can be whatever I want, I can be that. And that's what society and culture is making. And I want my kids to have a standard, many standards, but to have a standard that they take their identity and make their identity from those standards that I've taught them through their life. And it's one of those big struggles of being a father. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer. Anything goes wrong in my house, it's on me. Because I'm the doorkeeper. I'm the one that opened the door in some way, place, allowed something where that happened. Right. So one thing that hit me earlier that I just now remembered. What do you think about this? All right. Because it's something I struggle with too. I really relate with you when you say, hey, where do you want to go eat? Doesn't matter. Pick. Okay. This place. Nope. This place. Nope. Yeah. This place. Nope. So I've heard different advice on these things, but what if it's like, hey, I'm hungry. All right, let's go. And just drive to a place. Don't give anybody any options, Brian, because sometimes women just need that. Yeah. Regardless, there are some women who are going to get on here if this ever goes anywhere, and they're going to have some disagreements with it. They're going to say, nope, not okay. Nope, you don't make decisions, all that stuff. No, our men nowadays need to be the most decisive people in the room. They need to be that person. That's something that on my personal goal for this year is to be decisive. No, I'm going to be the decision maker. That's fine. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts on that? Well, what are your thoughts on that? It stretches a little bit, right? I get it, because
on the spot for this one, man. Yeah, you really want it out there.
It must be, yeah. But for real, it is something that you, when you were talking about that, I was like, what if? Because this is something I want to do this year, and the Holy Spirit kind of brought up and said, do this. So what do you think?
So what you just said is what I've been doing. Like, sometimes I don't give that option.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, like when I tried that, because there's different things that play in your mind or different things you hear on a podcast or on a TikTok. We know that's big, a simple video. And that's things I've done. Like I've just went to a place. This is where we're eating.
Yeah.
This is what's going on. And I've, even throughout the day, like we have things planned. No, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening. And there was a battle. You could tell there's a little bit of a battle between my wife and I.
Yeah.
But she respects me.
Yeah.
And she looks at me as that person he's over this household.
Right.
Whatever he decides, I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's not 100% perfect all the time. Yeah. You're still going to have those moments of like, why don't you just pick something?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I would start there.
Yeah.
Like, look at yourself. Because now that I'm a father, I look at every man that way. I don't care if you have kids or not. I look at you as like, you're going to be over something one day.
Yeah.
You don't have it now, but when you get it, you're going to be like, what do I do?
Yes.
And I want you to find that person like I have you.
Yeah,
I know, like, if I'm going through something, I'm calling Trevor.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy, and he has more than just me to take on.
I'm telling you, man, that's not real.
He's gonna answer that phone, even if he leaves you, deep in a cottage and there's like 12 kids on top of you. He's coming. Man. Just give him a minute. He's coming.
Yeah, and like I said, we went through some stuff at the residential facility. I'm telling you.
But yeah, so I think it is one of those of like it, just looking at people different now than I am a dad.
Yeah.
Of like, it's your decision.
That's good.
We both know him. He's been in our life, and he has really like been on my mind a lot lately.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah.
But we had that conversation one time of being the man.
Yeah.
Because he made a statement on a situation within his home. And I said, listen, it's not my place. That is your home.
Yeah.
You're the man of your household.
Yeah.
And that tough love, you can see it kind of changed him.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day, there was a bunch of us together, and I seen him do something. And I was like, that's different.
Yeah.
But because I'm not saying that I'd done it, because it wasn't me.
The Holy Spirit.
It was the Word working through that and paying attention to that, and the advice that God throws at me through other people.
Yeah.
And I shared just that little bit with him, and there was a little bit of a change that you saw.
Yeah. Amen. That's good.
And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Why do we have to make life so difficult?
Amen.
When all we got to do is open that book and do what it says.
Yeah, and have crucial conversations, man. We see them as crucial because that's just a society that we live in. But to be able to look at another man and say, hey, this ain't right. Hey, I see this. All right. Maybe our relationship isn't in a good place. Maybe it's not too deep of a relationship. I say, hey, man, I just want to give you some advice. I seen this and this is how I seen it. You know what I mean? Or you have someone where you're really close to and you say, hey, stop being an idiot. Like, you know better. Like, I know you, you know me. Yeah. Let's straighten up, dude. And it's just like, oh, whoa, it's okay. I get it. Yeah. Thanks, man. That's some good advice. You know what I mean? Because I think we need all those people in our life. You know what I mean? We do.
I think so too.
To be able to stand up and just go, you know better.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, oh, man, I respect you. I know you love me. So
yeah,
I get it. You see it from a certain angle that I'm not obviously seeing it from, or I just need my eyes opened. And we need those people to open our eyes to
it. We do. And I've learned that you can do that with some people, and some people you got to be a little gentle.
Yeah.
But then you tie it in that way so they know the standard.
Yeah.
I've kind of watched that and learned that too, just dealing with people.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Back to residential, that I tell you, man, it will teach you some stuff. Because not only in our positions, we were overstaffed as well.
Yeah.
But dealing just with staff, and it's like, why are you letting this kid do that?
Yeah.
Why are you not taking charge of the situation?
Yeah.
And it's little things like that. And I've had some of those conversations where and you've told me this before, when you're trying to teach me, I guess. I'm just playing. You did great. He did great.
Yeah.
And I'll let everyone know that. But it's, you tell him, and then you tell him.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, okay, I got it. wasn't perfect at it at first because I told him, you know. And then it's like, okay, let me back up a little bit. But I think it is good at any conversation you're going into, if you're stepping into that and trying to correct someone or say, hey, do better, end it strong. Don't end it like, you know, do better next time, bud. Because I promise you, I will not do that with my son. Either one of them. It will not be, oh, you can do better next time.
Yeah.
It's this is what you're gonna do next time.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it together.
Amen. That's good. So this is going to be the end of our podcast. This episode, it is 3:00. I got my kids getting home shortly, so we are going to end it out. But as the last one that we went through, we get to end it in a special way. So I want to end this awesome episode, this awesome privilege of having Brian here in my studio to be able to shoot this podcast with some life advice, words to live by from Brian Haddox. Go ahead, bud. What do you got?
Hey, 2 guys, 1 camper coming at you soon. New podcast. You never know what's going to happen around here.
That's awesome.
But thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, brother.
That's awesome. And what I'm taking out of this, you know, we talked about different things and kind of jumped around the ideas of stuff. And as you know, that happens.
Yeah, it does.
You know, but for me, I would say find a support system.
Yeah, that's good.
No matter what you're going to do in life, find a support system.
Find a support system.
No matter if it's foster care, no matter if it's kids of your own,
no
matter if you're doing this journey by yourself, you find you a support system.
Amen. That's good.
And open the word.
Amen. Amen. It always comes back to the word, always comes back to God. And with that said, I will add to it in this realm is that if you don't think you have a support system, open your eyes, because the support system that has been given to you is just one that you might not like, but that's okay. You don't have to like it. You don't have to be the happiest person in the world, because so often God will put us in a situation to grow us, to stretch us, and to grow us into who he created us to be. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. So jump into the uncomfortable. Get into that system, get into that support system that has been put there by God just for you. And don't be shy. Start today. Thank you guys so much. Be blessed.
Check. Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Trevor, and this is What's Going On in the Life of You.